Hi, we're starting again, and we will create a basic skull, not exactly lifelike, but much more stylized skull head. So first of all, we need a box for this. It will be symmetrical, perspectivity, P for perspective, and just let me resize this way too much. These directions, okay. And as you see, this is already set. We have 3x3 segments, just because one for the nose in the middle and one for the eyes, and usually it's a good startup for a head-like shape if you want to keep it as simple as possible. And on top of it, I will use a relax modifier and add relax just to make it a little bit more soft. Alright, it's not doing anything from this on, it's just making smaller and smaller. I will do resize it and then convert it into an editable poly. And of course we want to make it symmetrical, but we don't have a center edge, so for that I will select edge. This one is selected. Let me switch to a different color. Hopefully that helps to see the selections a little bit better. Okay, so this one is selected, and I'm selecting ring and right click and connect. And the default connect is actually splitting it in half. Now the reason we wanted this one is because we can go to polygon level and select all the polygons. I'm in the front viewport. It's not this one. When you're using this, it's not exactly a front viewport, not all the time. If you are in perspective and you press front, it won't make it front view. It's just a view from the front. So you have to use F, press F to set to the front view, or P to perspective. So get used to this. Forget the view cube. It's a good visual feedback on about your orientation. So it's easier to see if you are rotating this way. This is the left side, this is the top side. So it's a good idea to have, but if you're just clicking on it in a perspective viewport, it's not a front viewport. Okay, so, and yes, we definitely need a symmetry modifier. I've typed in SYM, and because that's just symmetry, it landed me there. And Z-axis, back and forth, no, it's not working. Y-axis, it's up and down, no, it's not working. X is, okay, it's left to right, but it's mirroring the empty side, so I will need to flip this. Good. Here we go. Okay, so we need to check the proportions. Of course, the nose is not that big, so we have to reduce it. So this polygon actually should be much more narrow. So I'm not going to do anything. Just select an edge and go to loop and choose W, move, and move it closer to the center. Maybe it's not the best idea at the top, so I will select these guys and pull them back. Okay, just to keep it rounded in the end. But this is much better for the eye. And maybe at the beginning this area should be not that rounded, okay, because it's not flat, but it's almost a negative space. So let me go and select these polygons and use the scale or flatten it along the Z-axis. You can use a line and look for which one is the axis you're looking for, but it's just in this case Y is working well, but usually it's just simply so intuitive that you have this scale it in the direction you want, and that's it. You don't have to wander around a line all the time. And just let me pull this up a little bit. So here will be the nose in this polygons, and here's the eye, but honestly it's not enough for the nose because it's just stretched out, so we need to cut this up, and it helps a lot for the eyes as well. What do I mean? when we have a polygon like this and we're just creating the shape and creating inset and etc., it's not giving that details for us. It may be a bit more boring and round. And here we have a little bit more complex shape. So what I will do, I will go to modeling in ribbon. If you don't see the ribbon, you can turn on here. So that will be Swift loop, and select this. So now we have one loop all across. I'm using whole loops because we want to keep it quad model, full quad model. If you don't know about quad modeling, just keep in mind that it helps to keep and maintain a clean structure that's easy and working properly in production. So that's the goal here. And to make it rounded, there we go, select edge, this edge, holding down control, adding to the section, switching to scale, scale it up a bit so it's a little bit more rounded, and later on I can adjust it a little bit better. Okay, so polygons, again, control, holding down, and we need a kind of a frame that protects the shape from too much distortion. So right click and inset with the setting, and that way I can control it a little bit more. Okay, it's fine. And then Shift E or right click and extrude to create this kind of cavity. And if you want to go very detailed, you can play with those. You can add inside an edge if you want to make it more realistic, but here it is just fine. Let me pull this back. Maybe it's too deep. Okay, so that's it. That's where we are. We have this rounded shape. Looks very flat on top. So before I'm moving forward, I want to add some volume to the head. So let me go, showing results, turning this on, function key 3 to be able to see that my selection is okay. And I'm holding these and trying to maintain a nice arc. Okay, just a nice arc. So an overall volume, that's what I'm looking for here. These are actually 2 points. These are not just one single point. And pull them, just like a fan or like spokes in a wheel. Yes, it is in the left viewport. Of course, we want to stretch this things a little bit more, and maybe pull this, and maybe pull this back instead, just to add some rounded back. Okay, lift this up. Good. All right, so we can work on this back area later on, but right now just focusing on the forehead and the overall structure. Now it's time to add a turbosmooth modifier. To select it, turbo, and hit enter, and there we go with turbosmooth. And I'm happy with the basics, so as a first approach is fine. It's time to progress forward with the nose cavities and the maxilla, and the Zygomatic can be a little bit of a challenge. So let me go there and see what's going on. Let me turn this off, showing result off, function key 4 to be able to see the actual wires. And for first is just progressing forward with this maxilla area. So these 2 points, polygons are selected, Shift E and extrude, and maybe it could be a 2-step extrusion. Just let me see the overall look. Alright, it looks like a leg. It's not welding in the center. The reason is simple. We have polygons inside, because when you extrude something, it will always extrude, let me just quickly show, it will always extrude all 4 sides for this. It makes no difference, even if you are at the center, it cannot recognize that, hey, we are in the center, so we need no polygons inside. That way you have to manually remove it. And if it's not welding, because the offset is not good enough, I have selected this edge and showing result and pulling this back. It's still not okay because this vertex is still far from the middle. You can see we have this gap, and I can hit right click Oh, it's actually the opposite, so let me just manually this. Right click is usually resetting the points. Okay, this is, I see now. So what I did, let me select all the points to fix this symmetry issue and pull this. Don't be nervous about this, we will get rid of it. Right now all the points are aligned and this symmetry should be the mirror sub-object of the symmetry should be also dead center. So now if you have something similar as an error, you can fix it this way by moving the mirror plane. Okay, now these points should be way outside, or it's easier if we are selecting these polygons here. It's just less work, so selection becomes easier. Okay, good. I'm happy with this, and of course we need to create a Zygomatic arc, but later on. Right now we are focusing on the nose area, so here should be the nose. So what we'll do is, let me turn this off, and we can protrude it a little bit naturally, just a tiny change on here, and Shift E to, Inset to create a protective edge around these, and something odd happens because there's quite a lot of density here. That means these polygons will be created anyway. So the problem is when we are duplicating this, we have now these shapes, these base shapes that could be used to create these individual things, these individual cavities here. So I can go and select these and pull them back, but this center is just way too thick. So in my opinion, we can keep it, but it may not look that good. So let me give it a try and extrude this, Shift E, back, and see how it looks. Okay, it's not bad, but now we need to fine-tune the thickness of it. So I'm just setting these points, pulling them in a bit, pulling them in, and set this point. Usually this one is a little bit off, so I will pull this back, dial this back. But this one here, this is a little bit more up front, and also the top area is up front. So just to select this polygon, let me show that, this polygon actually, and I will flatten it first, and then once I have the selection, I will go back, show end result again, function key 4, to see the to be able to not to see the unwanted things. Undo my selection and pulling this a little bit. Pulling. Okay. Right. We definitely need one more segment around here to create the forehead, so we may want to add that, but for now I'm just making the corrections. This edge is selected and we can pull this. Yeah, okay, looking good. And probably this edge should be a little bit closer to the center, and this one should be also closer and a little bit more up front. Okay, that's nice, that's working well. Okay, and also this one, so compared, this is a little bit blocky, the top edge of the eye or the orbit. Here it's also a little bit flat, but this one is angled. So this part, namely this point, should be pulled up a bit. Okay, so that creates this Google-like shape, which one is much better. And if we want to make it more edgy here, we can actually select these points and pull them back a bit, or lift them up. But in that case, if you see this too blocky, we still need to add iterations to the turbosmooth in order to have that looking somewhat realistic. Okay, so not bad. Maybe more points to control the forehead. So for that, swift loop and going in, and now we have more points to control it. We don't want to go crazy. The reason we do this to be able to pull this forehead a little bit outside, so to actually add the volume for the brain. Okay, just selecting this, and this is a very important part of it, showing result on and off, because that helps to visualize the final look of it once it receives the subdivision. Subdivision is turbosmooth here, so that's what we are doing. Lift this up. Okay, so you can make it angry or you know, neutral kind of way. That's how it works. Right. This one is protruding a little bit better. Usually it's protruding a lot more. And to make it somewhat wider, I'm looking for the bottom and pulling this up. And if we want to create a rim around this, so you want to create a gum-like thing, you can create an inset. Let me show this just in a second. So I'm pulling this up. And we can create that cavity by using, let me go away, select these 2 points, these 2 polygons, and inset them. And insert them more. This will be our rim. This is what we're looking for. And this could be deleted. And this edge could be pulled in the center until it closes. Now it's closing. We are on the threshold. And these polygons, like this one, should be pulled in. And that will create a gum line, but don't forget about these as well. So we have to create that gum line there, or we can extrude this further. For example, technically that's the cleanest, so I will do that and increase it further. But that way we have to take care of this overall length. So I will make the adjustments and push this up a little bit and push this up a little bit in order to be able to have that. Okay, so, and if you want, you can put in the teeth. There we go. All right, and we can actually pull these in this direction. And now we have a couple more points, but in general, that's how it works. So that's the gum line of it. Okay, great. Now maybe the Zygomatic arc should be used, and we will check how to make it a little bit smoother. But before we do that, we need to add the Zygomatic, and this is the Zygomatic, this is the area. So we want to create some kind of a setback on the side. As I remember, it was the os occipitale, so that's side bone. Let me turn off the show result and be able to select the area I'm looking for. So this is the chunk, and we want to create a frame around this eye socket. And to achieve that, maybe this one as well. Yeah, this one as well. So I will go and right click and inset, and that's generating this. Now we have this polygon, this side, which was good, and we can now actually use an extrusion. Shift E and put this back just very slightly. It's not much, and I'm using scale to scale it down and rotation to create more cavity on this side and less cavity on every other aspect. So now just tilting it a little bit up, and basically that's looking good. Okay, right. Let me check it in the turbosmooth. Now it looks like we have a full plane on here, which was obviously it's not the goal. We're not looking for this. So we have to hide these a little bit better. And one way to do it is selecting the point and using soft selection. Enable soft selection, and if it's too strong, it's definitely too strong, so because it influences all the points around. So reduce the fall off quite drastically. Now here we go, and once it is established, so we have the soft selection, I will go down and use and look for the relax that's built in with Editable Poly. If you remember, we started with relax modifier with the box, but here we can use it within, and that's a good thing, especially when you're combining it with soft selection. So now it's nice and smooth. So let me hit plus, and I'm going and selecting the other point. Okay, be careful, because when you click on it, it will instantly apply the relax. But no worries. We can go plus, and then select this point, and maybe this one as well. Okay, I have selected. I'm holding down control, so this one is interactive. So the command lives and it's active. If you just press plus, it will apply the results, and then you can select another point and another point. But when you are done completely, you can press accept. And I'm going back and turning off show with results. I'm sorry, use soft selection and look for the results. Okay, so it's much softer now. We still have a blocky area here, which one is not that good looking, but let me handle that. So here something causes trouble. Here's a little bit blocky. So what to do? Soft selection again. Maybe this soft selection is not enough. So I will increase it until I see some, as it reaches out. I don't want to make it so strong because it will pull this point. Let me demonstrate. Where you are. Relax. So it may push that point, and that's not really helpful, especially if we have this bounded points off. Okay, so that helps us to keep it in position. So right now, I was just way too strong with it. So let me reduce iteration. Okay, let me undo. Okay, this was it. Redo, Ctrl Y to redo, and see if it's getting any better or not. Okay, it's much more believable, but we need more volume on the overall head. So we go front and just lift this up slightly, and in general, I will do something. Okay, now this is the basic way to create the model like this. And now I'm focusing on. I just want to show another tip. Before we're finishing this, and do some fixings around other areas of the skull, because the back was way too blocky. So I will use these points, for example, selecting soft selection, enabling, and go down and look for relax, and look for the relax. And I was using this value, and I think it will be okay now. So it's much more rounded. Yeah, but in general, let me show you a trick that's oftentimes it's not discussed, but it's really handy. So if you have an overall proportion issue, you can do something. So let me copy this, shift and drag. I'm making a copy. And for example, I want to make this skull area a little bit bigger, but how to do it easily? I will redo, I will go in symmetry, and on top of symmetry, I will add an edit poly, for example, edit poly. And the reason I do this, because now, let me turn off the show and result, turbosmooth is enabled. So I can model not just one half, but because edit poly is placed after symmetry, I can affect everything here. So I will select these points, for example, because I want to affect the skull area. So I'll select these points and walk down and enable soft selection to create a gradient selection. So it's I don't want to affect the nose and the maxilla parts too much. So I will use the soft selection to limit the effect of my other modifier just to the top part of the head. So while this is active, so vertex is active, soft selection is enabled, and I'm on edit poly level, I will call a new modifier, and this modifier will be the FFD 2x2 will be fine. So FFD and 2x2. And this FFD 2x2 is applied, and when it is applied, the stars, these dots icons, are appearing next to it. That means when it was applied, we had edit poly in kind of an active mode, so we had a pending vertex selection, and now this FFD is only affecting the selected points. So when I'm selecting these 2 points and dragging them, you can see it's not affecting the whole thing that much. I can make it asymmetrical if I wish, but I don't want to do it, but I can do it easily. I just want to lift this up a little bit, and yes, we can apply and see turbosmooth, and if I'm clicking away, I can see clearly the effect, the changes I made. Actually, I like this this funny looking, little bit distorted skull as a stylized skull. So I will leave it as it is, but that's the logic here. Now, what's going on? What happens if you want to go back and add more things to edit? Practically, you can right-click and delete the turbosmooth. Now you have all this long thing that we have an editable poly, symmetry, an edit poly for selection, and an FFD that affects our selection. But we can't go back to symmetry that easily. So this is a little bit of a problem. What you can do to kind of reset and be able to get back a half side of the skull to easily model is, let me copy it again, is we can convert it into an editable poly fully. And go to polygon mode and select the side, and carefully select, because you know there may be polygons off. Okay, everything is fine. Hit delete, and then we can use symmetry, apply along the x-axis, flip it, and yeah, it's not working perfectly because the mirror is a little bit off, so I can pull this back until it welds. Okay, I'm not going crazy, I'm just pulling this back until it welds. Okay, how does it look? Let me go back to turbosmooth just to check, and here we go. So now we have a fresh new model with an easy to handle structure, so we can go back, make changes, edit further. So if you want, you can, for example, add another swift loop within the eye, and then you can create more things. You can create more cavities, or pull it up to mimic the os lacrimae bone, and so go on. You can add more and more details as you wish. Okay, turbosmooth should be set to 2 to make it a little bit sharper, and practically that's the way to create and build a relatively simplistic skull. Thank you very much, and see you next time. Goodbye.